We're at the Whitworth Art Gallery, which has been in Manchester since 1889. This large red brick building was built in two stages in the late 19th century and then the early 20th century as an art gallery to show fine art and textiles and more latterly wallpapers. We're at a point where we almost can't accommodate the number of visitors that want to come and use the gallery. So we had 170,000 visitors last year in a building that was designed for about 120,000. We do major international exhibitions, but lots and lots of community engagement work, especially with people who use the park that surrounds the gallery. We've got 55,000 objects in the collection, which are stored in the basement areas of the gallery, and we can only show about 3% of the collection. So after reviewing all of that, we decided we really needed a 21st century expansion of the gallery to allow it to cater to the needs of visitors in Manchester today and those that come to visit internationally. The gallery is incredibly beautiful at the front. Grand 19th century entrance, which is wonderful, but it's a little bit intimidating for visitors who are not familiar with art galleries. When you go into the gallery, there's a beautiful 1960s remodelling. So there's slate and wood and some lower ceilings. It's a very easy, open plan space. But that kind of 19th century and then 20th century mode for the gallery doesn't really meet the needs of the visitors that we have now. We're surrounded by a beautiful green space, which is one of the best used parks in Manchester. But on the borders of our park, you have some of the most deprived communities in the whole of the Northwest. And those communities are incredibly diverse. We're one of the very few cultural facilities in our area, and they want to and need to be able to use the gallery. But what they see as they come across the park at the moment is a horrible bricked up blank face, and it's incredibly off-putting. So the vision for the expansion of the gallery was to reconnect it with the park, to be true to the original aspirations of the gallery, which was to be a gallery in a park for all social classes, offering inspiration and instruction in equal measure. Having actually quite a clear sense of what we wanted to achieve, but no clear sense of what we wanted the building to look like, the RIBA competition process was a really helpful mechanism for us. So we sat down with the competitions office and talked about the various different ways that the RIBA might be able to support us. And what we decided was that a bespoke competition would be best for us. They shared with us the ways in which you can put together briefs for architects. They gave us a very useful structure to work through. We felt we needed a competition because we wanted to have serious international profile for the project. And we realised really quickly that using the RIBA competition process would mean that we could publicise the project in a way that we just wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And it did follow. We got great coverage in the architectural press, which was then picked up by the arts press and the more general press, and it raised interest in the whole project, which subsequently has really helped us with our fundraising. We knew we would get quite a lot of response, but we didn't think we'd get 139 all over the world. It was a huge thing to then process. But again, the RIBA office and their sort of structures and experience in dealing with things was incredibly useful, because we just wouldn't have got through the numbers that we had to look at if we hadn't had their support. The most interesting part of the competition by far was seeing the 10 long-listed practices, which gave us such a diversity of type. And again, I think the RIBA office was really good in advising us, and particularly our architectural advisor really helped us in saying, don't pick 5 practices that are quite similar. Give yourself one of each type. And she helped us kind of understand the typology of architectural practice today. So we had one super global practice, we had one really local one, we had one whose experience in the museum sector meant that they were a really safe pair of hands. We had one kind of wild card. We invited 5 practices. They were exhibited for a month, and we solicited public feedback, and we did 454 individual interviews with members of the public, and had about 600 questionnaires returned. So we had a sense of a public vote. We also consulted with our many stakeholders and with our colleagues at the university, as well as had the view in the end of the competition panel. There was one that in the end stood head and shoulders above the rest, both for the public and for the competition panel. And that was MUMA, McInnes, Usher, McKnight Architects. And they're a quite young practice, although they've had a lot of experience prior to becoming the practice that they are now. But their design stood out because they responded to the site more profoundly than any of the others. What MUMA proposed was that you would extend out from the South Gallery, and on this side there'd be a cafe and a learning studio in one wing of the new extension, which we'd said we wanted. But their cafe will end up in these treetops, because very, very clever structural engineering means that we don't have to take any trees out at all. And one of the big things that we'd said in our brief was that as a gallery in the park, we wanted to see the most sustainable technologies used that could be used, and we wanted to lower our carbon footprint by 10%, even though we were expanding the gallery by a third. So a design proposal which said we won't touch any of your trees, they're part of the beauty of your site, and which found a way to allow our visitors to sit in the treetops. It got to the heart of the whole concept and vision for the project. We've had nothing but positive feedback about the whole competition experience, and although there's nothing here yet, everybody locally and all of our politicians and all of our major funders have a very clear sense of what this building is going to achieve for us, both in terms of its physical manifestation, but also in terms of what it's going to offer visitors and how it will allow us to expand our visitor numbers enormously. And I think they have that understanding because part and parcel of the competition process was showing and sharing the potential proposals and making very open to all the people that are interested in the gallery who we selected and why we did that and what our reasoning was. And so it's been a process of making the building public before it's even built, which I think is tremendously powerful. I know that the chief executive of our city council has a sense in his head of what the new extension is going to look like at night, because he's seen the competition drawings of that, and he's got a sense of what it's going to do for the local academy school, which is just across the road. So it's been a very powerful advocacy tool for us. The competition allowed us to make a decision about spending £12 million and changing the nature of the gallery forever in a way that was full and professional, and it allowed us to go through an experience which was completely unfamiliar and terrifying to us, with the support and confidence. I think what we've achieved through the competition is a design that is miles better than even my imagining of what it could have been. The original founding fathers of the Whitworth said that they wanted it to be for the perpetual gratification of the people of Manchester, and I think the new building will ensure that we do that in the 21st century in ways that perhaps our 19th century forefathers didn't imagine.